Yo, what's up, everybody? This is International Master Daniel Rensch with Chess.com via our YouTube channel. We're here today with another live sessions, which is a game where I play against another strong international or grandmaster and let you know my thought process as the game develops. Here we have a French, and my opponent has played the sideline 4b6, which is an interesting variation designed to try to trade off the bishops very quickly. On this diagonal here, and there are different ways to approach this idea for black, but one of them is the relocation of this bishop, like I'm doing here, allowing my opponent time and space on the queen side, but if I can save this bishop, I still have some decent attacking chances toward the king side, with my queen already establishing pressure, and once I establish this chain here, there's always potential for this bishop to relocate back to one of these diagonals in some fashion or form. This is an interesting line. Not sure that 4 queen to g4, my choice, is the theoretically best choice against this variation, but nonetheless, we're here now, and let's make the most of it. So as the queen side opens up and becomes a little bit more tricky, my opponent hopefully can be exposed for his lack of development. And that's one of the things I'd like to do. He still can't take the pawn on c5 with the bishop because g7 hangs. If he takes with the queen, there's different ideas, including check, which will ruin his right to castle, as well as just simply bishop to e3. I'm going to go ahead and play bishop e3 and develop a piece rather than just ruin his right to castle, because it seemed like a little bit more fun. But now maybe I'm regretting it, because there is the potential for him to get into an endgame, which means that the fact that he allowed his king to be stuck in the center is not that big of a deal anymore, so that's kind of irritating. But he's also opened up different tactical ideas. I guess I have to take on b4, and I'm going to play this move, bishop to c6, which the tactical idea that he may have missed is that by opening up the queen side so quickly with his king in the center, not only was the king an issue, but the lack of development of the pieces allowed me to just open up this a-file here. All of a sudden, he's been exposed for the fact that the rook has no squares along the a-file. The a8 doesn't seem like it's working out for him, and if he goes to a7, well, I'm going to chop-alicious, baby, right? So bishop c6 was, I think the sexiest continuation at my disposal, and now we are going to rock his world, little country girl, and hopefully win this game and clean up and maybe get a win here on our first live sessions match via our YouTube channel. And if you like this kind of thing, we got plenty more action. There's plenty more where this came from over on the main site, and we urge you to subscribe and check it out and come play chess. It's free. So here I'm going to try to simplify the position. The best thing you can do when you've achieved a material advantage is concrete as a piece, as I have done here, is to try to trade off and head toward a position where your extra piece will be felt the most. As long as there's still complications, as you can see now, the fact that I'm up a piece is not the most simple thing in the world to convert, is it? But if the pieces continue to be traded and the position simplifies, you know, playing a lone knight against the rest of the king and pawns, might be much easier than trying to play a position where there's still multiple pieces for both players. So that's why you hear the phrase that when you're ahead in material, you should trade pieces, because the simplification of the position usually makes your job just that much easier. So that's why that phrase, for those of you who are wondering why you're encouraged to trade pieces when you're winning. And now the position has developed a little bit. He also still has some issue coordinating his pieces with the king in the center. I'm looking at this idea of taking on d5 and giving the piece back for some jolly good fun, but I can't seem to make it work totally on a totally clear level to justify sacrificing back my material. And from a perspective of converting my advantage, I shouldn't take a risk with something like that unless I absolutely think it's winning. Otherwise it's just bad business. So now he's taken on c3, which if I take back his idea is that he's going to win this e5 pawn, and now he has a knight and a couple pawns, you know, against my knight bishop. Okay, I have about 50 seconds. My opponent has about 30 seconds, so we have less than a minute each. I see this idea here to capture on c6 and try to simplify the position further. If he takes on d4, I take c7 with check. That's called a Zwischenzug, an in-between move. If he takes on c6, then I'll take back with my knight. If he takes, then I will have taken back on c3. We would have simplified the position. So now he's made made probably the right decision, keeping the piece on the board, but I was able to force him to trade because if he had gone to c3, I would have pinned him, just so you know. That was the idea. And now the position is clarifying itself. My opponent, still being down a piece, heading to this endgame, should be easily winning for me. I'm going to make the most aggressive roads possible for my king to enter into this king side. In doing so, I am pretty sure that the endgame should be easily winning. He refuses to let me just get away with easy moves here. He wants to attack my bishop and make it funky, but the problem is that I'm taking him to Funky Town first, and after converting this extra advantage of the material, I was able to trade pieces, and now even if my bishop had to give itself up for this pawn, my e-pawn would obviously run down and get a queen. So to back up and review this game quickly, that's what we try to do in these live sessions, is keep it as entertainingly educational as possible. Let's take a look at what happened. So we played a French. My opponent played the winnower French with bishop e4. However, he played the sideline with 4b6. Typically, I think a3 is theoretically best here, because if he chooses to retreat the bishop as he did in the game, now I can actually give a check and retreat the bishop. And the difference is that in this case, I've already taken the time to free the space for my bishop, which means that I can retreat this knight now and immediately start the process of re-solidifying my structure and getting this bishop back toward the king side. Obviously it's not as aggressive considering that my queen has not developed herself toward the king side for an attack, but I think it's the most accurate approach here for white against this variation. And if he takes c3 and decides to trade off the light square bishops, he's obviously achieving that goal, trading off this bad bishop for my good bishop. By the way, it's a bad bishop classically because the pawn chain keeps it kind of hemmed in, which is one of the ideas of trading it. But the issue here for him is that actually I trade on a6 first. Now he's given up the dark squared bishop on c3 after a3, which means that he's going to have trouble defending the king side for the rest of the game. So for those of you who are curious, that's kind of a quick general summary, a fundamental summary of this structure here. Maybe not the most advanced summary, but something that really explains the basic features of this position. So I allowed my opponent to develop an attack, which maybe wasn't the most accurate, but I believe b4 was a little bit too crazy for him. Probably he should look to maybe play a move like knight e7, maybe even knight h6 and try to get me to trade off this piece, or maybe even knight d7 just to complete his development. I think this move was a little bit too much to ask, and so after opening the position, tactically we were just begging for ideas against his king, and I could have played this move right away, ruining his right to castle. I decided to develop and then give check. Looks like his only move would have been to move the king, instead of developing the knight, which allowed me that winning combination, if you remember. But again, now maybe I can remove the queen with check somewhere, possibly even still trade and castle long, or even trade and give a little Chekaruski. I'm sure that white still has an edge here. How much of an edge, I'm not sure. It's a little bit unclear. But after the move knight to d7, my opponent put himself in a lost situation where the material was falling, and the rest, as they say, was a matter of technique, smash town, population my opponent, and the rest is easy as pie. Eventually winning this endgame, converting my extra piece into a winning advantage with a passed e-pawn, and the game was red rover, send him right over. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you around on Chess.com.